Pleasure having you, as always. We now turn over to Europe, where at a high-level military summit today, Ukraine's Defense Minister Denys Shmyhal made 3 critical appeals to Ukraine's defense partners in light of the ongoing war with Russia. He urgently requested American air defense systems, particularly Patriot missiles, to protect against continued Russian missile and drone attacks that have been devastating civilian infrastructure. Shmyhal also asked for $6 billion in financial support to close Ukraine's procurement gap, allowing the production of drones and long-range weapons. Finally, he called for partners to start including Ukraine in their 2026 defense budgets and for secure loans to sustain next year's efforts. The meeting marks a key moment as Shmyhal and other top officials meet with Ukraine Defense Contact Group, a coalition of over 50 countries coordinating military aid to Ukraine defense support. We are now joined by Raymond Vickery, who's a former US Assistant Secretary of Commerce. He joins us from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much, Raymond, as always, for joining us on the program. Raymond, how do you assess the strategic importance here of deploying this Patriot missile system in Ukraine's current status in this conflict?
Well, thanks very much, Thomas, for having me.
Of course.
It seems to me that with all that's going on with Gaza, the Iran situation, tariffs, reciprocal tariffs, that the centrality of the Russian invasion of Ukraine has been put aside. We're no longer focused on what a significant breach of the international law and understandings that were reached after World War II to try to preserve the peace and prevent another world war. What has happened here is that the invasion has breached this anti-imperialism that you could take territory from someone else by force. It is the only and most significant breach of its kind in the 80-some-odd years since World War II. So the ability to be able to defend against this kind of invasion and to restore principles which are enshrined in the United Nations Charter is fundamental. Right now, as has just recently been reported, there have been yet more drone attacks. The Patriot system is really without peer in the world in being able to defend against those kinds of drone attacks. So unless you have that kind of defensive ability, the resolution of what is now a 3-year-old breach of the principles of the UN Charter is going to continue. Unfortunately, the United States has ceded its position of leadership in trying to restore these principles and move to a transactional approach. But it is now, it seems to me, the obligation of all the great democracies, India, Europe, Japan, Australia, to be able to refocus on this invasion and be able to support the provision of adequate defensive systems such as the Patriot system to defend against Russia.
Raymond, we've seen obviously an ever-changing stance when it comes to Donald Trump and this war. He famously said he would end it in 24 hours. We're now 6 months into his second presidential term. Looking beyond immediate aid, what role should the US play in developing Ukraine's own defense industrial base for sustainability after this war? After this war.
Well, I think that the United States has to reject the Trump view of international relations as simply being some sort of continuing real estate transactions where you try to make the best deal that will benefit you and you don't look at the overall relationship, you don't look at the question of values, you don't look at a question of institutions and rule of law. Now, lately, President Trump has seen, I think, the folly of his putting so much trust in Putin. He, as you have indicated, famously said, day one, this is going to be over. That he was someone who could make the deal and end it. That just is not going to work. It hasn't going to work, and it's not going to work going forward. So one can only hope that because Putin is offending the ego of President Trump now, that he will at least be able to provide some of the wherewithal for Ukraine to defend itself. But this is not going to be an adequate approach going forward. What is required is cooperation between all the democracies of Europe particularly, and the United States and throughout the world, to be able to rein in these imperialistic tendencies of Putin and others, whether it be China trying to take areas by force, or whether it be Russia trying to do that. This is a very, very dangerous situation and requires long-term cooperation. You know, peace, like war, must be waged. It can't be done on a transactional basis.
Yes, Raymond Vickery, thank you very much for joining us on the programme. Pleasure, as always. We now move over to South America for our next story, where Chilean President Gabriel Boric is hosting a high-stakes summit in Santiago with left-wing leading leaders from Brazil, Colombia, Spain and Uruguay under the banner Democracy Always. The one-day event promotes multilateralism and global cooperation, but risks provoking Donald Trump. Fresh off his 50% tariffs on Brazil, Trump has warned that he won't hesitate to target critics of his trade policies. While Brazil's Lula has already sparred with Trump over the BRICS summit, Boric's weaker domestic position and Chile's economic dependence on the United States make this a bigger gamble. With copper, Chile's main export, now in Trump's crosshairs, any backlash could carry real economic consequences. Now we move over to the Indo-Pacific, where in Japan, the far-right